Hello, everybody. Welcome back to AniYayAniNay. Of course, this is not the usual AniYay review. Today, this is the special series that we are doing for none other than the Studio Ghibli films. As always, you know me. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Joey.
All right, let's get this series started. Hello, as always, welcome back, guys. Of course, before we get started on the series, we just want to give y'all special info. We're going to be doing specifically Studio Ghibli productions, so basically anything that kind of looks Studio Ghibli related but isn't them, that won't be reviewed here, but we may add it later as like an extra episode. So, just hope.
At least for a little while anyways, you know.
Yes, this is a special episode, so we want to give y'all a great review and a good podcast, as we usually do. But of course, before we get started, let's give a little background information. Of course, I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Studio Ghibli and what it is, but still, I'll give you guys a little background. Basically, Studio Ghibli is a Japanese production company that was founded in 1985 by, of course, head directors Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, as well as producer Toshio Suzuki. Basically, it's Miyazaki and Takahata's films that are the main things that are watched on Studio Ghibli. It's mainly their ideas. Of course, both Miyazaki and Takahata knew each other long before Studio Ghibli's creation. They have been working together since the late 60s. But of course, Studio Ghibli is still one of the most well-known anime production companies out there. It's like basically net income comes to a 14.26 billion yen with total assets of 15.77 billion, as well as having an agreement with Walt Disney, which is why we're able to watch a lot of the Studio Ghibli films here in America. So, yay for us!
Woohoo! We got this.
Yes. But, of course, our first film that we'll be reviewing, of course, was also a recommendation to do on the show, is Spirited Away.
Yep.
Which is the only Studio Ghibli film to actually have won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature.
The only, though. The only.
Yes, the only one, Joey, to win. Now, nominations, that's a different story. But wins, yes, that is true. But, of course, Spirited Away was also recommended to us by one of our fans to do on our normal show. But when we decided to do this, we decided to keep it going and do this series instead. So let's go ahead and get started with this review on Spirited Away. Just to give you guys a heads up, until we decide to do this series, Joey has never actually watched Studio Ghibli films.
I've heard it and all. I just never actually, put the time into hey, let's give it a shot. Woohoo, let's go, yay.
Basically, although I'm pretty sure anyone who watches our show, I'm pretty sure a majority of you have heard of Spirited Away or any other Studio Ghibli film, but we're still going to give you guys the usual rundown that we do with our podcast, a normal synopsis, our favorite characters. The only difference is that we won't be the thing is I don't think we'll be giving them any yays, any nays. We'll be kind of ranking them. So, to find out which ones are the best and which ones are good.
Yeah, but for me, because I hadn't really watched them, I'm gonna have to watch a few of them before I can actually start giving a ranking on them personally. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To rank them against each other personally.
Well, that's the whole point of the show, Joey. I mean, we can't really rank them right now because this is the first step.
I mean, for people that's seen other people, all of them or something like that's seen other ones, they could be look, well, this is what I would think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, I understand. Well, I mean, I've seen all of them except maybe the one that was made a little bit after Hayao Miyazaki's retirement. that actually was a big deal for Studio Ghibli when one of the main creators retired, that everyone believed that Studio Ghibli was coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
But Hayao Miyazaki did come out of retirement to continue doing stories, which is a big thing. I mean, Hayao Miyazaki is a great director, an amazing director, and he's been doing movies probably long before any of us were born. But let's not get off topic and continue with telling you guys about Spirited Away. Spirited Away basically tells the story of a 10-year-old girl named Chihiro Ogino, who, while moving to a new neighborhood, enters the world of kami, which is basically, in Japanese folklore, the world of the spirits. As her parents are basically turned into pigs by a witch named Yubata, Chihiro takes a job working in Yubata's bathhouse to find a way to free herself and her parents and basically return to the human world. Basically, when I first ever saw this film, I mean, it was amazing, but now giving it an actual review, Spirited Away was kind of like a Japanese version of Alice in Wonderland, in my opinion. At least that's the way I see it. I don't know if Joey sees it the same way.
I can see how you can relate Spirited Away to Alice falling down the rabbit hole.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's kind of
different than falling down the rabbit hole. You know, it's more of
they walk through an arch gate. Sorry. They walk through an arch gate, basically.
Yeah. Instead of going through a rabbit hole, they go through a gate hole. Basically, a gate to the spirit realm.
Yes, but I mean, that's the way I've seen it. But then again, almost every Studio Ghibli film nowadays follows this fantasy timeline in just basically different ways. At least that's the way I've seen it. But there's so much folklore, or at least Japanese folklore, in this anime. A lot of the kamis, which basically, I guess you can relate them to yokai. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of yokai from Japan. They're folklore demons that are supposedly, some are bad and some are good, that follow you around or exist in certain basic, how can I say it? They exist in certain objects, or they're like deities. But like I said, some are evil, some are good. But I mean, the only other movie American based that I could base this to is probably The Wizard of Oz. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched that when you were younger, Joey. The Wizard of Oz.
Nah, never. Not at all. Definitely not. Nope.
I don't know if you're being...
Sure didn't. You know, just, you know, going up in the tornado. Yep. Nope. House falling down. Nope.
Okay, excusing your sarcasm, what do you think?
Like I said, I can see how you can relate it to that, to those. I mean, they kind of have somewhat of the same similarity. They all went to a different realm, basically. They just entered the different realm a different way. They all went through a gate. They just entered it a different way.
The one thing that fascinates me about this folklore is the way they perceive the spirit world. I mean, I've always thought of the spirit world like a parallel world. A world that's like somewhere that's like right, basically kind of like right next to us. Mm-hmm. We just can't see it or touch it, in a way.
Yeah.
That's all I've always seen spirit world, spirit world.
I mean, that's basically how it is, really. You might as well say it is. But I mean, it wasn't bad at all, really. It was a decent show. It was a good show.
That's why I feel like also, like, whenever you watch these ghost hunter shows or anything like that, when they see these spirits, it's like they pop into our world for a brief moment, but then they return to their own world. But I mean, I guess there's more to it than that. I mean, it's not really that simple. Mm-hmm. But we're here to talk about Spirited Away, not about, our on what we think of the spirit world here and there. We just know that the spirit world is part of this film. Let's just talk about some of our favorite characters, of course. I already know who Joey's favorite character is going to be. He doesn't really have to tell me.
Who?
It's Haku. It's Haku because you found out he was able to transform into a dragon.
Haku is cool. I kind of like the Boiler Man too. So it's kind of in between both of them. I like the Boiler Man. He can always, just reach, grab. Yep. I don't have to move anywhere. Yep. 8 arms. Yep.
He was a spider spirit, I believe. I believe his name was Kamaji.
Yeah, Kamaji. I think that's it.
Yes.
Or I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I don't remember.
Kamaji. He's a yokai that commands basically the boiler room for bathing. Although he didn't have many lines, my favorite character has always been No Face.
No Face was a good character too.
A lot of these films, from what you guys see, from what you'll notice, if anybody who does or does not watch Studio Ghibli, there's not really villains in this show. There's people that are greedy and kind of in a way, in their own way, bad people, but they're not villains. They're not out to destroy the protagonist. But this one actually did have a villain, because Yubata was a villain. At the very end, she showed her true colors. She said that if she failed her final test, then Chiho would be hers. Which, by the way, during this whole time, the reason why Chiho becomes not just a worker there, she becomes kind of a prisoner because her name is taken from her. And that's how Yubata keeps people stuck there in her world. By taking
she makes you forget your name.
By taking your name. And that's how Haku comes into play. He tries to help her and convinces her to try and keep remembering her name while she's there.
He couldn't remember his, but he could always remember hers.
Yes. It's kind of interesting.
It really was.
He didn't remember his name until she told her. Told him. Not her. My bad. Though, of course, Ghiblis don't really go into that romance because they're they're basically kid movies. It was easy to see that Haku was falling in love with Chiho. I mean, he's saying Chiho, but it's Chiori. Maybe I'm just saying it because it's short, kind of short for.
That's what I was just thinking too.
But basically, from what I saw, the show portrays not just the yokai, the spirit world, as well. It portrays also fantasy, as well. That's where the Alice in Wonderland vibe comes from. Also, traditional Japanese culture, because the whole movie, the main setting is basically a bathhouse. And in the bathhouse, everyone wears traditional Japanese clothing. Men and women do. So it's all traditional there. The bathhouse is pretty extravagant. It's one of the most noted settings out of Studio Ghibli. Other than the traditionalism, I would say the environmentalism was pretty amazing too. Basically, the fact that the environment was not just a city and everything. It had also, the environment was, healthy, a lot of green, a nice blue ocean right next to the bathhouse.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a city polluting the air. It was kind of like a beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
But that's basically the main thing I see. But anything else about the plot and anything there, I'm pretty sure any Studio Ghibli fan who's watched these films could speak it off the top of their head. I mean, there's a reason why I didn't say spoiler alert here, because I have a feeling that a lot of people who will listen to this have probably seen this movie before. But, I mean, they've heard all about what I said. Joey, what about you? They probably want to hear from you since you've never seen this movie before until now.
I mean, it was actually interesting at first, because I was like, okay, like, I don't know, at first I felt like I didn't know where it was going, you know, lost, yay, woohoo,
Yeah,
let's be lost.
But what did you think
And
about
then-
the themes and everything of the movie, like the fantasy, the supernaturalism, the things
I mean,
like I said?
The fantasy and all that was pretty. It was actually pretty decent. You know, all the supernatural. It was like, you know, trying to figure out how to put it into words.
I mean, like, it was like really, it portrayed it very well. The spirit world.
Yeah, I reckon you can say that.
I mean, this is Japanese folklore, so it's not technically American folklore. So
mhm.
these are not just kami; they're
yeah.
yokai.
Yeah, I mean it. That's why it went like. That's why it was like it was a well designed setup.
So you liked everything. So you liked a lot about the themes. You liked the way they set up the spirit world. You liked the setting and the main setting of it, the bathhouse, and the characters that came in there. What I liked also about the characters was the fact that almost all of them were greedy,
Yeah.
except her and Haku. But I mean, there was also Yamada's twin sister, but she's more of a side character. And basically, No Face wasn't greedy. He's just driven by emotions that come around him.
And he couldn't figure out what she wanted.
Yes.
That's why he was only wanting her.
Yes, that's the reason why he was in there, because she was kind to him at first.
Then he started eating everybody.
And that's how
Everybody come here. Everybody come here.
and that's how his personality came to be what it is. Like, while he had eaten people. But of course, she was able to help them because she had gotten that medicine from that river spirit. She helped on her first day.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is also last thing I like to say before we give you our final output on what we think of Spirited Away. Well, I guess Joey will give you his output on Spirited Away, whether he gives it an AniYay or AniNay, because I give almost all these Ghibli films an AniYay. But I mean, what I liked was the time lapse. Like, after everything was said and done and Chihori went back home, she only spent, I think, a total of 2 days there in the spirit world. But it looked like maybe a week or maybe almost a month.
It looked like way more than a week. I can tell you that now, because the grass was tall. The branches fell over, it was a good minute that she was in the spirit world.
Well, I mean, technically in the spirit world's time, she was probably only there for 2 or 3 days. Whereas in our world, time probably pushed over a few, maybe a week or a month or so. So I wonder if those movers, when they were getting to their new house, had been sitting there waiting for that long. Some people predict the same thing with the spirit world. Some people say that time lapse is really fast, but I've also heard people say that time stops in this world. So it's like you left for 3 days, but you come back, not a second has passed here, and they're like, what the heck happened? Where'd you go? You never left. But yes, Spirited Away, definitely, guys. This is the start of our
Studio Ghibli series.
So, Joey, why don't you tell them whether you give it an AniYay or AniNay, even though that's not really the point of this series.
Nah, the main point is the ranking, really. Later on, of course. But I'm gonna go ahead and just give it an AniYay on it.
Well, after our next choice, which we will be doing in a second, we won't be actually watching them in order. We're actually going to randomly pick a Studio Ghibli film out of all of them. But I mean, after this one, we can probably just tell you whether this one is better or which one is not. Which one is not good. Basically, we can just say the next one, we can rather say, was it better than Spirited Away or not? Because if it wasn't, then it's down below it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that Joey's going to mainly have to do is if when we get to Kiki's Delivery Service, that one he's going to have to give the honest opinion on, because I think Kiki's Delivery Service is better than Spirited Away, which I've already seen it. But I don't want to be biased here.
I give my honest opinion all the time.
Yes. But Joey will have to be, because I'm going to be biased no matter what Joey says about Kiki compared to Spirited Away, I'm going to say Kiki is better. Because that was probably the first Ghibli film I ever watched. But let's get to this pick. Let's find out what we're watching next. Since technically Spirited Away was actually chosen by one of our fans, we actually don't have a set pattern of who's going to pick what first, because it's not like you pick this one or I pick this one. So, you want me to pick first?
It don't matter. You can pick.
Okay. Okay, I got my bag here. Full of Studio Ghibli films. Here we go. Let me find which one we're going to watch next. Okay, I got one. Oh, I actually got two. Do I have two? No, I have three actually in my hand. They were all conjoined together. Okay, I got one, guys. I got one, everybody. Okay, here we go. See which one it is. Oh, this is one of the ones that I haven't seen. The one that came after Hayao Miyazaki's retirement. It's called Earwig and the Witch.
Earwig and the Witch.
That's the name of it.
Okay. Sounds like fun.
Sounds interesting. I mean, I've already seen plenty of witches in this Studio Ghibli series, so I mean, there's not really anything else I can say. Mm-hmm. But that's it, guys. That'll be the next one we review on this series, Earwig and the Witch. So look forward to it.
Look forward to the Earwig
and the Witch. But as always, I'm your host, John.
And I'm Joey.
We'll see you
on the next show.